This is AP Statistics Chapter 7, and in this video we're going to discuss practice problems that you might see on a test or quiz or even the AP, and just kind of, prep yourself for some difficult problems that they might ask you to solve. So before we get started, let's just kind of review some formulas that are good to know before your quiz or test. And so here, this one is a formula for standard deviation, which is good to know. And then here, this is your expected value formula, or your mean. And so for this one, what you do is you add up, which we use sigma, all the different items, so each individual piece of data, and we'll usually mark that with like xi. And then you're going to multiply that by the probability of that happening. And so you just add up all that for each individual piece. So let's do, say, one practice problem. So let's say they give you a 5-sided die and they give you the probabilities of each face, and then they ask you the probability of these intervals we have here. And we know that probabilities of a die, like what it lands on, is a discrete random variable. It's not a continuous random variable. So for this, when we read the probability that x is less than 3.5 but greater than 2, and notice here there's no less than or equal to, it's all less than or greater than. So when we see this, we're going to read it as the only thing x could be is x probability that x equals 3, because it's less than 3.5, so it can't be 4, and it's greater than 2, so it can't be 2. So x is equal to 3, and then we look here at our chart, x equals 3, it's going to be 0.2. And then here we have the probability that x is greater than 3.5. Again, we have this greater than, so we're going to look what's greater than 3.5, 4, and 5. So we're going to read this as p that x is equal to 4, 5, and that's, we look here, 6.65. And then this is another problem, and this is more of a multiple choice question, so you're probably not going to see this on the AP, but maybe on a test or quiz. And this is when they give you the probability distribution for, say, let's do a 3-sided die, and we see here that this is the probability here equals 1, and they say what's the most likely distribution for the sum of 2 independent roles. So this is the multiple choice question, so you're not going to have to completely solve it on your own, but you're going to want to, I'm going to give you advice for something that you're going to want to pick. And first of all, when we see the sum of 2 independent roles, we know that we should add up all the possible roles. So sums that we could get would be 0 if it's 0 and a 0, 1 if it's 0 and 1, 2 if it's 1 and a 1, 3 if it's a 1 and a 2, and lastly 4 if it's a 2 and a 2. And when you pick a probability distribution, you're going to want to pick one that has all of these sums in it, and then also something that has relatively random numbers, but at the same time it has the same probability and likelihoods represented in the probability distribution that they give you. So for example, since the probability of landing a 0 is 0.1, for the probability of sum of 0, it's going to be lower than, say, the probability of a 4, because that's the most likely. So as far as probability, you're going to want to find something with the same probability or likelihood. So yeah, this is just some advice for in practice problems for Chapter 7 type quiz, test, or AP.